Our first winner is a big sister. She's also a friend to women, young and old, professional and community-based. She values her friendships with women very highly and goes out of her way to connect women to each other and to the services they need. Each year on the busiest Saturday of December, Claudia and her father can be found outside Sam's Club, ringing bells, singing, and playing Christmas carols to raise funds for the Salvation Army to purchase food and toys for needy sisters and for needy families. She introduced her own children, as well as the children that she was mentoring through Big Brothers and Big Sisters, to the joy of community service. Whenever Salvation Army needs help distributing food or toys, Claudia appears like the Pied Piper with an army of children to get the job done. Regarding being a mentor and a role model, Claudia's daughter says, "I know she's my mother, but I'm indeed biased, but she's simply amazing and incredibly giving. In so many ways, the woman I am today is because of my mother's guidance, direction, and compassion." At the age of 13, in the 7th grade, my mother told me that my summers were not to be spent being a typical lazy teen. She made me volunteer my time at least 2 days a week to give to charity and give back to the community. Because of her foresight, she gave me such a gift, which of course I didn't appreciate at that time. The gift was biblical in nature, do unto others. I learned most important life lessons about giving rather than receiving, and what a difference one person, one voice can make. Because of all those forced experiences at such a young age, I chose psychology and sociology as my fields in college. I have definitely followed, or am trying to follow, in her giant footsteps. Claudia helped Kim Van Kampen develop the On the House program, also called OTH, for the Van Kampen Boyer Molinari Foundation. They found that many of the local nonprofits, do not have experience or funds to do formal fundraising events, so they devised a program to offer fully paid events at Hampton Green Farms to qualified nonprofits. I wonder how many in this room have visited Hampton Green Farms at some point, or that I thought so. Claudia is the event planner for these events, over 20 a year for the past 5 years. She identifies and interviews the nonprofits, helps devise the event to be the most effective for the needs of that group, works with their staff on all things from guest list to table sales to silent auction, and then attends every event to make sure everything goes as planned. She has dedicated almost every weekend in the summer to this, on top of her regular paid job at the United Way. The OTH program is wildly popular now among charities in our area, and events are being booked years in advance to accommodate all requests. Kim also says of Claudia, she has a passion to help people that is like nothing I've never ever known, even in the world of philanthropy. She has tremendous experience in good old-fashioned business sense, both which are necessary when working with nonprofit funding. She has endless personal resources and creativity and problem solving. If she can see it, she makes it happen. She spent her life in Greater Muskegon supporting women's needs and causes. Her early efforts, which continue today, revolve around the Child Abuse Council, raising money, serving on the board, and advocating for the critical services they provide. Not only is she a powerful advocate for United Way and the services of organizations they serve, she's also been a member and a volunteer with the MMA Foundation, that is for our own Muskegon Museum of Art, for years. As a volunteer for the last 10 years, Claudia serves on the annual anniversary gala committee and as a member of the Inspire campaign committee. In addition, she's a promoter, supporter, and volunteer of Kids for Food Basket. In a big and very personal way, Claudia was and continues to be a huge promoter of Muskegon's Dancing with the Local Stars. She learned to dance and brought in thousands of dollars for local banks as a result of her enthusiasm and participation. This past year, she used her name and talent to support an annual fundraiser in the annual Muskegon's Got Talent program, and that brought in thousands of dollars to help Muskegon Civic Theater. Claudia is known for all of her work with the Child Abuse Council. She single-handedly changed the job description of board member when she joined the child abuse directors in the early 1990s. When the federal funding was discontinued for the Children's Advocacy Center, a program that provided a variety of compassionate and services to children who had been sexually or physically abused, Claudia personally donated funds to rescue the program. She then created an annual fundraiser, The Great Gatsby, which she hosted on the grounds of her home on Muskegon Lake to raise funds. She devoted her time and talents to the ambitious project until she moved to Ann Arbor. Even living 200 miles away did not stop her from her dedication to the CAC. She drove monthly to attend board meetings and to help create even greater services for children. She fought for the creation of a prevention program which provides the children of Muskegon County with a trained professional who explains to children what good touch and bad touch is and the people that they can go to for help. Now, happily, several years ago, Claudia came back to Muskegon, so she definitely lives right in our midst now. She's fought for many years for an endowment fund with the Community Foundation to ensure the continued services for children in the future, and she was instrumental in facilitating a permanent home for the Child Abuse Council after 20 years of renting space in the various churches and nonprofits. The beautiful building, which offers a beacon of hope to society's most vulnerable, is on the corner of Peck and Laketon. It's mortgage-free, thanks to the fundraising efforts of Claudia. Very recently, Claudia became aware of a need at Every Woman's Place for an area where the children could play safely and out of the way while their mothers filled out forms and all the other things they had to do privately. Very quickly, she gathered people, resources, and that became a reality. It's called the Sunshine Room, and that's a good name for Claudia, a sunshine person. It is my honor to present to you Claudia Bryant. Claudia,
Whether you're a first-time jewelry browser looking for an extraordinary engagement ring, a couple celebrating your 60th anniversary, or you're just looking to treat yourself or mark an important event, Rothheim & Swanson Gemworks is proud to offer custom-made selections handcrafted in America. Silver, fine-colored gems, diamonds, and gold jewelry, as well as strands of lustrous quality pearls. From ring and watch appraisals to in-house jewelry design and repair, ring sizing, remounting, to a complete rebuilding, you can rely on them to keep your old favorites looking new. K&S Gemworks, Muskegon's community jeweler. Memories made one at a time.
Glow Sun and Shades. Simply fabulous.
You have been kissed by the sun.
Thank you. Are you going to my turn? Thank you, everyone. Such an honor to be here with my friends, my peers, my coworkers. My children are all over the room. Would you please stand up for a minute and so everyone can see all of my beautiful children? And yes, I have 3 boys and a daughter. They told me I had 2 to 4 minutes, so I'm going to do this quick. my mother is in the back also. They just drove back from Florida. And my mom called me at 6:30 this morning and she said, your father was called to the Salvation Army in Chicago. He has to play his trumpet for veterans today and some cemeteries. So I'm dropping him off at the train and I'm going to drive there by myself. So my mom is, Mom, would you just wave your hand back there? I realized at 60 years old that I had 5 different events in my life that made a difference in my life. And the first one that I remember is growing up until I was 18, is when you walked in our door at my house, was a scripture verse that said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And that was my parents, and they did. We didn't have a choice. Our house wasn't a democracy. We did what my mom and dad told us to do. They were great role models, and so you kids, the way I raised you, with you will volunteer on Saturday morning, and you will be happy, and you will not ask for money. Came from Grandma and Grandpa showing me the way of how to give back to the community. My parents were very active in the Salvation Army. My grandfather, my dad's father, was a Salvation Army minister here in Muskegon. Their motto is doing the most good. I carried that motto through my life of trying to do the most good. My parents set an example for me as a child. Then I started having children, one after another, and realized how wonderful and what a wonderful blessing and what a wonderful gift they are to me. And my husband now in the back, you are a wonderful gift to me also. He calls me his little butterfly, and he just lets me go away till midnight, and he eats by himself, and he's an awesome husband. But my children, they're my everything. I love being a mother. And so I did make them pay it forward. There wasn't a choice in our house. And as they were growing up, I helped start the Child Abuse Council. And it's been almost 40 years. And the saying that I remember is, it doesn't matter what kind of house I live in, how much money I have, or what kind of a car I drive. What matters is that I make a difference in the life of a child. And I hope today that I have made differences in the lives of my children and made differences in the lives of children in Muskegon. And what I've been most proud of the Child Abuse Council is that we were able to change the law in Muskegon. And my son-in-law over here is a sheriff's deputy, and at one time the city, the state, the police, state police, they didn't have a protocol for child abuse. If a child was raped, they would take sometimes that child back in the same room to interview them. Now there's a protocol that every police department buys into. There's a room at the Child Abuse Council where the police can go, they feel comfortable, and we did that for Muskegon County. When I came back from Ann Arbor, I asked for my job at United Way. I love being able to help 60 programs, and their motto is live united. I try to live united. And I bring in the Salvation Army in all my talks. Doing the most good, I'm doing the most good for our community with 60 programs. The last one is Rotary. Jim Fisher, you're sitting in the back room with his wonderful mother that I see, and Jackie. Thank you for being here. Jim asked me to join Rotary, and guess what their motto is? Jim?
Service above self.
Say it louder.
Service above self.
Service above self. From 0 to 60, those few words from every one of those 5 different things, for me and my house we will serve the Lord, live united, doing the most good, service above self, has helped me love this community and want to make a difference. So thank you. I appreciate you giving me this award. I do it because I love it, and I want to leave something with you. Make your life a mission, not an intermission.
Our next awardee is Jenny McNeil. Jenny is a role model in both her personal and professional life. Jenny is a reliable volunteer to her children's school, PTA, and other activities. Jenny is a tireless volunteer for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. Jenny's compassion for survivors of domestic and sexual violence has been evident in her career and her community involvement. Jenny is a role model as a young professional businesswoman. She joined the firm of Lattice and Hoops in 2007 after spending 9 years in the nonprofit sector working as a legal aid attorney. In January 2014, Jenny was made partner in what is now Lattice Hoops McNeil Law. As a board member and volunteer, Jenny continuously serves as a mentor for Every Woman's Place and Webster House staff. Staff know and rely on her ability to balance compassion, justice, and problem-solving skills. She is also a role model to other volunteers in the respect she shows for each employee, volunteer, and client she comes in contact with. She demonstrates with integrity and compassion that she also inspires others in the community to volunteer their time and resources. She was an open door for any questions that I would have when I served as program director for Safe Haven. This is a quote. I would seek her knowledge of the court system with any situation because she was an advocate for survivors. This was a quote by Crystal France, Director of the Youth Services with Webster House Youth Services. One of the most valuable roles that Jenny has served throughout her career has been being a member of community boards, holding several positions on the board of directors for Every Woman's Place, Webster House Youth Services. Jenny has held a position on the board since 2001. In 2012, she became the president of the board and continues to lead the organization forward. In 2001, Jenny has been was instrumental in assisting in the growth and the programming for legal advocates, the Legal Advocates Office in the county building, and supporting the agency's goal of renovating the residential shelter facilities. Jenny has been an instrumental part of the success of the agency events, including her participation as a volunteer for Girls on the Run and a 5K for local and middle school girls. Jenny has been a featured speaker at the Take Back the Night held as part of domestic violence awareness activities during the month of October. Jenny leads fellow board members by example with her annual success in generating corporate sponsorships for Cheers and Chocolate, the agency's major fundraiser. Jenny has served for over 10 years as the chairperson for the Domestic and Sexual Violence Task Force from 2002 to 2013. During her time, the task force has successfully advocated for survivors through the criminal justice system, family court, and community agencies. Jenny was instrumental in the development of Safe Haven, a supervised visitation and safe exchange program in Muskegon County. Jenny served as the Bar Association president also for a number of events that were focused on generating support for the Webster House youth. Shortly after beginning her career, Jenny became an attorney for legal aid. As a legal aid attorney, the caseload is large and the options for most clients are limited. Jenny provides some level of high quality service despite free or free-based services. When Jenny left legal aid, she joined Ladison Hoops, a successful practice in North Muskegon. Despite the fact that Jenny was now working at a practice in which she had to earn her own income, she hardly ever would turn down a case where she could represent a victim of domestic violence and their families. She will advocate for her client regardless of their circumstance financially and does it with great determination. There are so many examples of Jenny as a mentor, role model, dedicated volunteer, and advocate that one narrative could not do her justice. We hope that you will honor us now and as we honor Jenny McNeil as the Woman of Accomplishment for 2014. Jenny?
Thank you very much, and I was very nervous because I have heard Claudia speak before, and I really did not want to follow Claudia. So thank you so much. I am very honored to be chosen for this award, primarily for my work at Every Woman's Place Webster House, as I know it's the staff and the board there that nominated me. Over the years, people have asked me why I am so passionate about domestic violence. And I personally have been incredibly fortunate. I come from an incredible family. I have wonderful parents who are here today who were great role models for me and whose love for each other and their family was an inspiration for me. I have a wonderful husband who I've been married to for 17 years. I have been incredibly blessed. I am incredibly fortunate. But I've always had a soft spot for the underdog. I think I got a lot of that from my father. Raised to think of others, not just myself. And so when I was barely out of law school, I had my very first case. It was my solo case, and I met this woman who was an incredible woman, and I will never forget. And she had been treated terribly by her husband. Things that I don't even want to tell you. It was unspeakable to me what had happened to her and her children. And at that point in my life, I didn't understand domestic violence. It didn't mean anything to me because I came from something of such substance that I couldn't believe that someone would treat their family that way. It just to me wasn't possible. So that day I became what I would consider an activist. And Eve Ensler, the Every Woman's Place people will know who she is. She's an incredible activist for women. She says that an activist is someone who cannot help but fight for something. That person is not usually motivated by a need for power or money or fame, but is so driven, slightly mad by some injustice or some cruelty, some unfairness, so much that they're compelled by an internal moral compass to make it better. And that is really what I saw that day. And when I was in that courthouse, what touched me was the fact that her husband admitted everything that he had done and didn't think anything was wrong. And the judge, at that point, it wasn't in this county, it wasn't in this state. The judge didn't really think a lot of it was wrong too. He was angry, but not angry enough. And so I was pulled aside after that hearing by an advocate from the domestic violence shelter in that county, and she pulled me aside. I think she saw something in me, and she trained me. She sent me to trainings, and she taught me more about domestic violence, and that was the start for me. So when I moved here to Muskegon, I sought out Every Woman's Place, and I found an incredible place. If you haven't met the women who run and work at Every Woman's Place, you need to. They are incredible advocates for the women in our community, and they reeled me in. I remember my very first board meeting. I came with my son in his baby carrier, so I had just given birth. And I still, to this day, they all know my oldest son because he still comes with me when I need him to, because I feel I want to teach him the importance, as Claudia was talking about raising your family to help our community. So for me, I thank you, but really the women who work every day at Every Woman's Place, they're really the true ones that deserve this honor. I am honored that they have drawn me in and allowed me to serve on their board and to be the board chair, because really they are the ones who are the heroes in our community, who help the women who can't speak for themselves, give them something so that they can get out of some really, really bad situations and become better members of our community. So I thank you all, and I thank them for giving me this award.
In the 150 years we've been in business, many things have changed. Our greatest achievements are rooted in the things that haven't. Years ago, the person you called banker was also the person you called friend. When it came to service, there were fewer layers and friendlier smiles. And banks earned the trust of their customers and community while working tirelessly not to lose it. At Independent Bank, all this remains true today. Sure, we've made advances that help customers bank more conveniently and more comfortably. But at the end of the day, we know that people really need a trustworthy partner committed to their financial goals, dreams, and aspirations. And we've been happy to be that partner since 1864.
Christy Weberg is an instructor with Moon Elementary School. She has taught in Muskegon's public school systems for the past 13 years. She has taught at various grade levels, serving the past 4 years with Muskegon Public and 9 years before that with Muskegon Heights Public Schools. Through her work within the schools and in the community, she connects with the students she serves and works to build stronger connections between these schools and their surrounding community. Living in the McLaughlin neighborhood of Muskegon enables Christy to connect with students and their families as neighbors, students, and parents. Her efforts to focus on striving to improve both the education provided for our students as well as working to educate others about the importance of preserving our public education system is a truly public trust for future generations. Christy participates in the work that are being done alongside her neighbors and other community members. She was instrumental in establishing the McLaughlin Healthy Neighborhood Project, which initiated the development of several community initiatives through the collaborative efforts of many people, churches, and organizations. Some of these initiatives include the Summer Catch, C-A-T-C-H, camp for kids, book drives for many camp students. The Christmas store, which serves downtown Muskegon families, multiple neighborhood gardens and parks, as well as save our school efforts during the time of the school cutbacks. Currently, Christy is pursuing a master's degree in ministry leadership from Grand Rapids Theological Seminary. Christy counts it an honor to be able to participate with so many neighbors and community members who are already engaged in great works throughout the Muskegon area. There are many who could be named, including pastors, parents of schools and parents of students, activists, and those who are leaders on their blocks and in their neighborhoods who may never be recognized for an award like this, she says. Their wisdom about their community may never be heard or recognized in public forums, but these are the people with true strength doing daily work of holding their neighborhoods together, making them stronger. When we fully invest in the lives and serving those around us, we can be the same source of strength and change wherever our community may be. I'm going to ask Carol Thompson if she will please present our award to Christy Weberg. And Christy, please come forward.
Hi everyone, I'm gonna be short. I guess the thing I wanted to say today being here is just how much of an opportunity I've had to learn from people in my life about just serving others and being to other people what they need, whether it's in a larger community aspect or organizational aspect or just on a one-to-one basis. So there's a lot of people at table 9, my mom and sister and several good friends who I've been able to learn a lot from. There's other people here in the room today that I've had a chance to work with on different initiatives and projects, and it's just really a blessing to be a part of that with people, and be able to sit back and learn from them and see the wisdom that they have as far as how to make an impact in the lives of people around them. So if you're one of those people, thank you so much, and thank you for the award today.
Two-timing.
Honey, what are you doing?
For expert auto repair, call Ramos & Sons Auto Body, 739-7240.
Good morning, everybody. It is great to be here with you this morning among the Women of Accomplishment in Muskegon. And this morning I get to count myself among you, which is kind of exciting. As Kay mentioned, I've titled this talk A Journey of Discovery and Community, and I'm really excited to share with you my journey of discovery in this beautiful community called Muskegon. As Kay mentioned, I'm not homegrown, as they say. I'm a transplant, a newbie, but I love this place and I love this people, and I'm honored to be here this morning to celebrate with our nominees, our Women of Accomplishment. So I serve an organization neighborhood-based organization called Community and Compass. Many of you in the room are supporters of the work of Community and Compass in the downtown neighborhoods, so thank you for that. I know it's also possible that some of you are less familiar with the work of Community and Compass, so I'm just going to share a few minutes because the story of Community and Compass is linked arm in arm with the story of my discovery in this community. So in a phrase, Community and Compass is about transforming neighborhoods from the inside out. Our vision is for restored neighborhoods in which all neighbors have opportunity to use their God-given gifts towards the building and the strengthening of their communities. So we envision this neighborhood where all of the assets are fully utilized so that our neighborhoods become more of a picture or preview of heaven, a taste of shalom. So how many of you are familiar with the story of the dry bones, the valley of the dry bones in the Old Testament, Ezekiel? I know that not all of us can't come from the same faith tradition, but this is a really inspiring story that speaks life into places of despair. So I'm going to give you just a Cliff Notes version of the story. So you've got Israel, which is God's people, who at the time are basically completely in exile, cut off from really any chance of survival. The nation's dead. They're in captivity. Their land was taken. Their temple was taken. They're deprived of their king. So basically, national hopes have been dashed, and restoration seems impossible to this group of people. But in the midst of it, Ezekiel, who is this prophet, enters, and God gives a vision of the dry bones. So in the story, God transports Ezekiel, probably not literally, but in a vision, to this valley of dry bones, and God directs him to speak to the bones. Ezekiel is supposed to tell the bones that God is going to make breath into the bones, and they would come to life. Kind of crazy, right? But as Ezekiel does this, and as he watches, the bones and the sinews come back together, muscles surround the bones, skin forms, and God breathes life back into the body. And the people realize this amazing thing. Dead bones are raised to life. So the story of the reviving of the dry bones was a picture of what was to come. A hopeful future that was completely separate from the current circumstances. You didn't know you were going to get a little church this morning, did you? But seriously, whether we sit comfortably in the pews of churches or temples, this is a good story. It's relevant because it's relevant really wherever hope lacks, wherever people are suffering, where vision is suffering. And I think that the vision statement of Community and Compass could just as well read in the words of Ezekiel. We hope for the day when the Lord whispers to our dry bones and makes breath enter this neighborhood, and we come to life. We anticipate that day when God will attach tendons to us and make flesh come upon us and cover us with skin. We work towards that day when God's breath is put in this community, and we will come to life. Then we will know that God is God. So that vision is what kind of inspires our vision for the downtown neighborhoods, rebuilding a community that's been devastated, torn apart by disinvestment, flight, racism, oppression, generations of poverty, a group of people that some might say are uncertain of the way forward. But God invites us and entices us to be sure of one thing, that dry bones will live. So that's the vision in our words and the words of Ezekiel. But how does it work itself out on a daily basis at Community and Compass? There's a variety of programs and initiatives. Some you are familiar with, Sacred Suds, the Laundry and Shower Ministry, McLaughlin Grows Urban Farm, which is a farm that employs neighborhood youth and grows and sells vegetables. Bethany Housing Ministries is a program that rehabs forgotten houses and turns them into affordable housing for working wage families in the downtown neighborhoods. Muskegon Learning Lab, which is a computer center for adult learners, the Reading Buddy program at Nelson, and the most recent initiative is the After School Center for Academic Excellence. Our work with youth cuts across all of these programs. We call it the Youth Empowerment Project, or YEP for short. It's basically a leadership development program that offers high school teens a little bit of work experience, some cash in their pockets, a vision that includes college, and also a chance to build their own community. So for example, YEPs are hired to rehab the houses downtown or do lawn care for seniors in the neighborhood, work at the farm, work with Catch Camp, the neighborhood summer camp, and they learn job skills and life skills and people skills through these work experiences, which are often the first chances at job for these kids. So it's cool stuff. But I want to tell you a little bit how I got involved with neighborhood work. 10 years ago, Dan and I moved to Muskegon, and I really wanted to work with youth, specifically youth in poverty. I had just come from living in Japan for 4 years and had done a kind of a whirlwind tour of Southeast Asia, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand, one other one. And I really wanted to translate what I had learned overseas to communities back home in the States. So we moved to Muskegon, and I started working with downtown youth. And I quickly began to see that if I was going to work with youth and have any kind of impact, I had to work with their families too. So helping their moms and their dads, kind of engaging with their home life. And so I did. But then I realized that I can't really work effectively with families until I'm connected with the environment that they come from, right? So like the streets, the police, the community. And then I realized something else as I realized that there was this kind of larger context behind individuals. And that was this: I began to wonder if I really want to be part of changing an environment, possibly the best way to do it is to become part of the environment, becoming a neighbor and moving to the city. So we did. Dan and I moved into the neighborhood, and a neighborhood that seems strange and maybe foreign and probably even a little dangerous. And that became the beginning of Community Encompass, this journey of a young, educated couple, graduates of Calvin College, full of dreams and lots of illusions, moving into Core City in an effort to be part of changing an environment in a neighborhood of poverty to make life better for kids, for their families, for the community. So what did we see? Dry bones. Abandoned houses, broken windows, cracked sidewalks, struggling schools, unemployment, hopelessness. It's the stuff really that anybody sees from the outside at first. The images assault the eyes and the heart, and you're left feeling really unsettled because what you see is so different from the world that you know. And you're left feeling maybe pity for the folks that you think have no choice but to live there. But 10 years has passed, and how much we've learned, stuff that's a fact. The racial makeup of downtown Muskegon is 45% black, 44% white, 8% Hispanic, smattering of others. The area median income for the downtown neighborhoods is $19,000 compared to $29,000 in the city of Muskegon and $39,000 in the county of Muskegon. In terms of housing, 2/3 of the neighborhood is vacant or rental. And we've learned things beyond fact that are just kind of touche, common, that it's not about programs, it's about people. It's not about charity. In fact, charity often hurts communities of poverty rather than helps. That sometimes charity is a perversion of giving. It affirms the superiority of the giver, binds the recipient, demands gratitude, humiliates her, and reduces her to a lower state than she had before. I'll say that again. Sometimes charity is a perversion of giving. It affirms the superiority of the giver, binds the recipient, demands gratitude, humiliates her, and reduces her to a lower state than what she had before. But that's a talk for another day. Beyond the facts and the touche, we've learned some really important things about ourselves and the community that we live in. We've realized sometimes the hard way that no, we're not here to bring God to a community of desolation, but that rather a greater being is already at work, breathing life into dry bones, that this is not a place of devastation and hopelessness, but rather a place of deep hope and faith. This greater being is breathing through the people already here, rattling up the bones. There's a loud racket in our downtown neighborhoods of bones rattling and clanking. It's the racket of neighbors who care about their neighborhood, their block, their neighbor. God's put a vision in them and a passion, and they are working tirelessly to make their community good and a healthy place for their elders to grow old in and their kids to grow up in. They are working hard to make their community a place of peace and joy and celebration. So what's been the lesson in this for us? It's this, that it's important to wait before acting. And that's hard to do, right? When we see all of the brokenness in a community of poverty, we're fixers. We know what to do and how to gather the resources to do it. I see a broken window and I want to fix it. But we've learned that sometimes it's important to hold on to those impulses to help and fix. It's important to first step back and listen to our neighbors, to learn about their dreams for their community, to take their lead, pursuing their gifts, their dreams, and what they want to do, getting alongside of that and realizing that's where God's already stirring stuff up. So it's been a paradigm shift a bit. Basically saying, I'm not going to focus my efforts on looking at what's wrong with the community and devising my own plans for how to fix it, but rather I'm going to spend my time and effort pursuing and discovering where the gifts are, the people gifts and neighbor leaders. Where are they? What are they talking about? How do I get alongside of their dream? And beyond finding and listening to them, considering how I can give them opportunity to lead wherever possible. And that takes a different kind of stepping back. It's a stepping aside, allowing for different voices, creating space for new faces to lead. Because I think that building Indigenous leaders from the community, is probably the single most important thing that we can do for the long-term health and vitality of the downtown neighborhoods. So let me tell you a quick story. Recently Community and Compass bought a house in the unlikeliest of places, the corner of 5th and Merrill in Nelson neighborhood. Half of the block was vacant and boarded up on both sides. This was a corner where there was drug trafficking and other trafficking. We bought the house for $6,000 because no one wanted it. No one thought it was worth investing in. And we almost passed it by too. And then we thought, aren't these exactly the places where we should be going? And so sometimes we follow God's lead reluctantly. So we buy it and we put a plan together to rehab it. We hire some neighborhood youth to do the work. We basically say, here's a chance to learn some new skills, get a little cash in your pocket, and contribute to the building of your community. So one of the neighborhood youth is a young single mom. Her name is Sharita. And the guys and the gals across the street where all the traffic is, they know her. And she knows them. And for the next 4 months, they watch her come to work every day. They watch her put up windows and put up siding. They watch her lay flooring and bring in appliances, paint and patch the walls. And the guys across the street are proud of her. They actually help to protect our investment because it's her investment, and they're loyal to her. And she's a hard worker. And she also starts to get this vision of Community and Compass, that it's really not just about one house getting fixed up, but it's about transformation, the building and rebuilding of a community. So we get to the end of the project and we think, maybe the rehab was the easy part, because who's gonna live here? Who's gonna want to rent this place? And at the very end of the project, Sharita asks, can I move in? I want to be part of the transformation of this block. Unlikely neighborhood, unlikely house, unlikely neighbor, this single mom. But most of the time it's in the unlikeliest of places and the unlikeliest of people that God wants to work through, that God chooses to work through. And sometimes we just have to get out of the way. Another story of life in the midst of devastation. 2 years ago, in the middle of the summer, one of our YEP graduates was killed in a car accident. His name was Damari, barely over 20 years old. He had gone through some rough times, but had recently gotten his life together. He actually had a job, and it was on his way back from work one day. He was driving on his moped, and a van hit and killed him. The grief on the community was huge. and affected everybody, especially the Yeps, who of course had been working side by side with Damari through some of the rough patches of his life. So the Yeps processed their grief through sharing stories and memories of Mari. But after the funeral, actually on a road trip back from Chicago, where they had visited some colleges and art museums, the Yeps decided together to paint a mural in memory of Damari. The main artist for this mural was Glenn Kaufman, who was cousin to Damari. The mural is now public art on the corner of Terrace and Larch on the side of Sacred Suds. And Damari's grandmother lives just 2 blocks down, and it's been deeply touching for her to be able to leave her home, travel less than a block, and see this tribute to her grandson. So there's more stories of vacant land turned to parks and productive green spaces, stories of kids becoming leaders, stories of blocks being reborn, stories of homelessness turned to home ownership and stability, stories of business districts coming alive, stories of neighbors who have been dismissed by society for years, finding their gifts and offering them to their neighbors, and for the first time, maybe ever, being seen as having value and living into that. So it's clear that what you read and hear about the city isn't always true, or at least it's not the whole story. It's not a wasteland. It's not the Wild West of lawlessness and carelessness. There's hope. There's deep care. There are beautiful people that I believe God is using in God's redemptive and resurrection work. I share these stories with you this morning just as witness to the amazing work that's happening downtown among neighbors who have been here for decades, neighbors that have just moved in. I am continually surprised by, inspired by, impressed with the quality of deep care that motivates my neighbors to act and be and do incredible things for their community. We all know that there's enough labels to go around. Welfare recipient, criminal, bipolar, drug beat dad, ex-con, at-risk youth, all of these words that describe people as other. I hope that these stories of Sharita and Glenn and Damari and Sarah and Dan, I hope that they show that people are much more than the labels society has branded them with. Neighborhoods are more than their labels. There's much more to discover when we pursue the heart and the gift of the other, the person that's different from you, the community that's strange to you, maybe that appears dangerous or foreign. The opportunity to discover is on us, to find their heart, their passion, their gift, find what they care about, what motivates them to act. Pursue the gift in others with reckless abandon. Let's look for women and men, people of accomplishment, in the unlikely places, in the most broken places, the most broken people. Let's pour into them, learn from them, help the world discover that the gift that they can contribute to make this place a little stronger, a little more full of hope and love. There's an old Chinese poem that reads, "Go to the people, live among them, learn from them, love them, start with what they know, build on what they have, but of the best leaders, when their task is done, the people will remark, we've done it ourselves." Claudia, Jenny, Christy, can you stand up? It's your day today. You are our women of accomplishment, and we know that you'll say that there's lots of people who deserve this recognition, but today we get to celebrate you. These 3 women of accomplishment have invested their lives into the lives of others. These women are helping make our city a place of shalom, that place where nothing's missing and nothing is broken. Let's celebrate their leadership, their passion, their inspiration once more with a round of applause.
Beginning as a lumber company in 1911, Frederick's Construction has been servicing the Muskegon area since 1969. Family owned and operated, they specialize in roofing, siding, windows, insulation, additions, doors, decks, and more. Located at 1940 Commerce Street in beautiful downtown Muskegon, their phone number is 231-722-3937. When you want quality workmanship, you want Frederick's Construction.
in the Fruitport area for over 40 years, Grover Pharmacy offers a full line of vitamins, supplements, and homeopathic medicines, as well as a variety of glucometers, blood pressure kits, baby care items, bandages, and wound care products. They carry office and school supplies, Russell Stover candies, promotional and seasonal items, and Hallmark cards and gifts. Grover Pharmacy, they take time to care about you.
McDonald's Candies, 1064 South Getty Street in Muskegon, features an assortment of chocolate-covered nuts and creams, peanut clusters, fudge, seafoam, turtles, cherry cordials, and regular and holiday novelties.
The best way to stay healthy? Exercise your voice. At the new Mercy Health, we believe that carefully listening to you and encouraging you to take an active role in your own health care is an important part of keeping you healthy. So you'll find our extensive network of physicians not only use the latest technology, they focus on what you have to say. Your voice, our expertise. Mercy Health.